up with words for each letter
to fit that, yeah.
And since that's backwards from how your standard acronym originates, it is a backronym.
I read a good book.
More interesting is if you have something like a recursive backronym, right? You know what that is?
That's something that the acronym is within the name itself?
Yeah, so a recursive acronym is an acronym where like the first letter is the acronym, like PHP, right?
Yeah.
Stands for PHP Hypertext Processing.
Sure it does. Yeah, that makes perfect sense too.
Because PHP's right in there. And you have to expand that, and you just have an infinite number of expansions.
I didn't really know that
recursive.
because
It's
you told me
exciting.
that at
yeah,
the
anyway,
break.
okay.
So,
carry on.
Good book. About the Battle of Guadalcanal by Lucky. He was actually there. He's written a lot of historical books, a few about soldiers in Second World War.
How old is he now?
I think he maybe passed away. This was written in 1965.
Okay.
But his name is Lucky or like that, Leuk something or other, and his nickname in the service was Lucky, which is funny. And he was lucky because he survived. That battle was not anything like I thought it was. I mean, it took several months for one thing.
Yeah.
And the Americans were on the island and took the air base within a couple of days.
Yeah.
But the Japanese wanted it back really, really, really bad. And it goes into the screw-ups that both sides made leading up to that and how the Japanese kind of screwed it up and how the Americans were so tenacious and tough to keep that island that was pivotal for the war in the Pacific. It was a great base to have to launch the attack onto Japan.
Yeah.
Good book. Anyways, and they used radar. That's one of the things.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah, that's what got me
well,
there.
you were talking about the Second World War, and what I thought you were going to go into is how lucky we are that we came out of that victorious, because we're now free of our Japanese oppressors, right? And so we have a First Amendment still, is where I thought you were going with that. Had we not won the Second World War, we would be Japanese.
You're right.
And we would not have a First Amendment.
Or German, or
right?
Possibly Russians when they turned on us.
The great thing about the First Amendment is that it allows a clerk, an elected public official, right? Sure. It allows her to do anything she damn well pleases.
As long as it's in the name of her religion.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can they do that?
Did you know that? Well, yes, they can do that. Of course they can. Well, no. Maybe not.
I would think you could go to jail for doing that.
Yeah. I've never heard of anything like that, going to jail for religion.
Well, of course, we're talking about, what's her name, from Tennessee County somewhere.
I actually don't know her name.
Yeah.
I forgot it. It's not important. But
she didn't issue gay marriage licenses because it was against her Christian belief.
Yeah.
And judge says you can't do that.
Fine. Right?
Yeah, she has every right to do that.
Yeah, and the judge said, okay, you're going to jail. That's one of my options. You're going to jail. And she did go to jail, and then she came out of jail, and what's his ridiculous guy there?
Huckabee?
Yeah, Huckabee. He had a whole rally and whatever. And
offered to go to jail.
To go to jail for her, knowing full well that can't happen, right? You can't, you can't delegate your jail sentence. Like, I'm gonna just stay out here, and Jeffrey's gonna go for me.
It was a superfluous.
Yeah, of course it was, like most of what he does.
But politicians in general.
Yeah.
Well, apparently her deputy, she's got 5 or 6 deputies, have been issuing licenses. One has
Except
refused.
for one, yeah.
Who happens to be her son.
Yeah, that's weird, huh?
And her mother was a county clerk before her,
Yeah.
so nothing like a little nepotism.
Well, no.
Without nepotism, where would the queen be, Nate?
Oh, I think.
Where would the queen be?
I think the clerk having a deputy clerk. Yeah, there may be a little bit of a nepotism issue, but the previous clerk being her mother, not necessarily, because they were elected.
She might have earned it outright.
They were elected. It's like Bush and
but
Bush.
Now it's
right?
a legacy.
Yeah.
It's a hereditary title now.
Oh, jeez. It's passed down with the crown.
So when asked if she would interfere with her deputies, she would not answer.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll see. That was a couple of days ago, I think,
yeah.
when she got out of jail. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what's happened since then. But how do you feel about that? I mean,
this whole thing.
Does she have a legitimate argument?
This whole thing is old news, right?
It is old, but
I'm not bringing it up to tell the news because everybody's heard about it and talked about it at length.
And you're either on one side or the other, pretty much.
Yeah, right.
there is a legal
the other
side.
people are wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. So do I think she has an argument? Yes, of course she has an argument. She can object to doing whatever, right? I mean, and she absolutely,
and she
if her religion is the reason, feel free to object, right? But what you have to do in life is go somewhere where you aren't expected to do the things that you object to.
Or you suffer the consequences of your actions.
Right.
And
that's
what people are
mad
about.
She went somewhere where nobody expected her to issue gay marriage licenses because she went to jail, which is what you're saying. Yeah, she suffered the consequences, which is what people are mad about. They're calling it religious persecution.
Tyranny,
yeah. Which is weird. And I mean, marriage licenses is tyranny.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? I mean, if you want to get down to
any license,
it's such a hypocritical argument to talk about how we should issue marriage licenses to straight couples, but religion says we can't issue them to gay marriage, and if you force me to, it's tyranny. That's so hypocritical because the act of licensing something
is
that
tyrannical in itself.
Why do we license two people living? I mean, having a life together. That's the real issue.
That's a basic right, I would think, is to associate with who you want.
I think so.
Right.
And in the way around it,
and if you want to have marriages that it was traditionally, well, no, I guess there's some history of civil unions going way, way back, even before a religious union. So, but yeah, you could still have if it's important to you, you could still have a ceremony, have a private ceremony.
Absolutely.
But the state doesn't need to get involved in that.
No, and the arguments of, well, what about if one of them dies, what happens to the house and those sorts of things? It should be like any other contract, right? Any other contract.
Wills and all kinds of legal documents. But really, I think marriage licenses get down to a couple of things. One was, I think they wanted to try to protect against relatives marrying. That was one
Absolutely.
thing. But the other one also was interracial marriage.
Absolutely.
So that it was really kind of racist in that regard.
Absolutely.
And if you want to marry your first cousin, I mean, why not, right?
Is the marriage license going to stop the things that we're really worried about happening?
No.
Right? It isn't.
No.
It isn't. So it does no
like
good.
Drawing a line on the floor in a school and thinking that it protects children.
Right.
It doesn't.
Right. It's a good point. It's a no gun sign. Right. I mean that's
really
how effective it is.
What do you mean I can't marry Mary Lou? They're not going to stop me from honeymooning. No, we're not.
Yeah. So,
and there's laws against that, by the way, too. So
the big argument that I keep seeing that I don't understand is that she has a First Amendment right to freedom of religion.
Yes, she does.
Right.
By free from interference and persecution by the government, not private people. Right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, in fact, it is very explicit, the First Amendment. It says Congress shall pass no law establishing a religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Right? Congress shall pass no law. So what happened in this case is the Supreme Court of the United States said these laws that prohibit gay marriage licenses from being issued are unconstitutional. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Congress did not make any law prohibiting the exercise of her religion. You can't possibly make a First Amendment claim on this. There is no law that was created that told her you must issue licenses to same-sex couples. I don't understand the logic.
Yeah.
I try to get to the logic when I discuss this with people, and there seems to be none.
Well, yeah, it's like talking about religion or politics in general.
It seems to be
hit a wall sometimes.
A lot of people that I've talked to anyway, I get the feeling that the First Amendment says freedom of religion, and that is an absolute freedom of religion no matter what factors are in play. They don't talk about Congress making laws. They don't talk about other people's rights.
Yet they would have a real big problem if it was a Muslim doing religion and not issuing, bacon licenses or, whatever.
Are you giving the government ideas? Because
damn it! I'm sure there's a bacon license somewhere.
What happens is things get popular, and the government thinks they can capitalize on it.
Right.
Bacon's pretty damn popular.
How can we make this pay for us?
Yeah. I mean, if we want to get down to it, farming is highly regulated,
yes,
so bacon is
subsidized.
Bacon is already
I
controlled.
said it.
Yeah,
I'm sure it already is licensing.
That actually just made me angry. Thanks.
We could check with our Facebook guy who puts up every day. He puts up some stupid federal law, and I'm sure he could look up the bacon laws. We could Google that right now.
Yeah,
I bet there are.
I'm sure. So I mean, I don't know what argument there is. Look,
so I don't think she has a cross to hang on.
You have a job, right? And private, public, I don't care. And they ask you to do something.
Yes.
Why is the dog doing that? I don't. Okay,
I don't know.
You
down, girl.
So your employer asks you to do something that you object to, right?
Yeah.
You legitimately have a few choices. You can do it, right, and just not like yourself for doing it.
Bite the bullet.
You can not do it and suffer the consequences, which could be termination.
Right.
Or you can quit and find another place to work that won't force you to do those things.
Right.
Those are the options that she has, right? And they're the only options that I can see that are legitimate. The problem is it's a public office, an elected position.
So they can't just...
She can't just be fired.
Right. Well, she chose an option, and that is to not do it.
She
suffer
sure
the
did.
consequences.
She sure did.
The problem is she's getting so much support from everybody that doesn't really understand what's at issue.
But I think it's absolutely justified to be angry at her for choosing the option she did, because she was elected to do a job. If she can't do the job, she shouldn't have the position. Right? I mean, you expect public officials to follow the law.
Well,
how many times do the same conservatives that are supporting her saying she objects to the law, she shouldn't follow the law? How many times do those same people rag on Obama for not following the law with things like immigration?
Right.
Right? It's the same thing.
Right.
You elect them, whether they agree with the law or not, they are bound to follow the law. They're expected to. I expect them to.
Well, the religion part's the hot button.
Yeah.
She was also trying to have a reasonable accommodation made for her, too, which was to remove her name from the document. And last I heard, they wouldn't or couldn't do that it was some legislative issue. Mm-hmm. There's a law that says her name has to be on it. But you were saying that the county could do that.
I don't know. I had read something that they could do that, but I don't know.
So that's, we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, Mike Huckabee is sitting in jail in her place.
yeah, that's nice.
No, he's really not. Let's see.
Let's move on. I mean, since we're talking about Huckabee, let's
go
talk about other.
Oh, okay. Go down.
Some other. What the heck are they?
Candidates?
Presidential candidates? Yeah.
That's great. It starts with an earthquake, birds and snakes, an airplane, and Lenny Bruce is not afraid. I have a hurricane.
So this song, right, was used by it was Trump and Cruz. I don't know who actually.
Trump used it. He used two copyrighted songs. He used "End of the World," which was that, right?
Yep, that was
It's the end of the world as we know it. He used that just recently, but before that, when he announced his candidacy, he used Neil Young's "Rockin' in the Free World." And both artists got very, very upset. In fact, Michael Stipe, the frontman for REM, was livid. He said, "Go F yourself, the lot of you, you sad, attention-grabbing, power-hungry little men." He sent that email.
So they,
"Do not use our movie or my voice for your moronic charade of a campaign."
Yeah, so they used that, I believe, when Ted Cruz and Donald Trump held a joint protest or whatever against the Iran deal.
Well, Huckabee used "Eye of the Tiger" too.
He did.
With the Clerk.
When what's her face? Kim Davis. Hey,
there
I remember her name. Wow. Right. Yeah, look at that.
Well, you are getting older. It's hard for you to remember.